Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. This is the lecture 4 and today we are going to discuss the remaining two periodic properties which are electron affinity and electronegativity respectively. We'll start with electron affinity. So electron affinity is nothing but energy release when a gaseous accepts an electron in its now this energy can be positive as well as negative. So when an atom usually accepts an electron and gets converted into an anion, the energy, the electron gain enthalpy you can say is generally negative. But if the atom is partly stable or fully stable, like neon, and then partly stable, an example will be beryllium because it has got s2 configuration. So for these atoms, the electron gain enthalpy is always positive. The first one is always positive, whereas for the other atoms, it is always negative. Like for lithium, then aluminium, okay, which do not have we don't have the stable electronic configuration or halfly stable like P3, P6 or H2. Okay, so these always have a negative electron gain enthalpy, whereas the noble elements, they always have a positive one. However, the second successive electron gain enthalpy is positive for all. Now, you can say that if you encounter a neutral atom or a noble gas element atom, so the electron gain enthalpy will be always positive for it. Whereas if it's not a stable one, so the first electron gain enthalpy will be negative. Whereas when it will accept another electron, that means when it will become -2, the electron gain enthalpy will be positive, and successive electron gain enthalpies are more. So it increases, whatever the case may be, even if it's a noble gas element or any element. Now we'll have a look at some exceptions over here. No, first we'll do some examples. So if neon is getting converted to Ne plus by gaining electron, so what will you call this? Will this be exothermic or endothermic? So endothermic is when the energy is released. And it is also known as the positive energy release. So this one, okay. And the negative is known as exothermic, which means energy is absorbed. So in this case, as you know, this is a noble gas element, so we can say that the electron gain enthalpy will be positive no matter which order we are going, which order we are following. Even if it's the first successive IE, it will be the same. It will be positive. Whereas even if it's the Second one again it will be positive, so this will be plus. Now in case like aluminum, here we can say that this is the first time it's accepting electrons, and you can say that this is its first EA or electron gain enthalpy. So can we say that here it will be it will be an exothermic process. So here we will say that this is exothermic. Now coming to the second point, EA is related to electron gain enthalpy as this. So whenever EA is positive, it means that the corresponding electron gain enthalpy is negative, and vice versa. Okay, this is really important thing. Now we shall have a look at the periodic trends. Now first we look at the factors. The first factor is atomic size or atomic radius. Now a small atom accepts an electron more readily than a big one. No, it accepts an electron more readily than a big one. So can we say this will be inversely proportional? So hence EA is inversely proportional. Second is nuclear charge. Now as atomic radius is inversely proportional, one can definitely say that this will be directly proportional. Screening effect. Now as we know, if the screening effect increases, the nuclear charge will decrease, and effectively the atomic radius will increase. So as the screening effect increases, the electrons are less tightly held, and thus they require less energy to accept an electron. So this is also inversely proportional. Now we come to the most important factor, that is the stability. Now as we know that the noble gas elements have a stable electronic configuration, so they don't have the necessity to lose or gain electrons. So they rarely accept electrons to form an anion. So there you can EA of noble gases is almost zero, and same goes with the half filled and the fully filled ones. Half filled and fully filled, they also have very less EA. This is a very important factor, just remember this. I'll do an example on this. For example, for Mg, it has S2 configuration in the last shell. The electrons are in the S2 shell, which is completely filled as well. So we can say that this is half stable, and hence this will have a positive EA as well, a positive electron gain enthalpy, and also its EA will be very less. Okay, its EA will be very less as it's fully filled in the S orbital. Now we erase the board. we should have a look at the periodic trends. So across a period, that's from left to right, the atomic radius decreases, and then the nuclear charge increases as well as the screening effect decreases. So you can say that it ideally increases. The EA ideally increases from left to right, and then down a group, whereas down a group it generally decreases because the atomic radius is increasing, and then the screening effect is constant. So you can say it decreases down. However, there is an important factor in this one. So across a period, so if let's say we have got the elements of period 2, okay, we have got the elements of period 2. So as we discussed before, can we say that BE and then wait, so can we say here that these will be stable because this has got an electronic configuration of S2, and this is P3, P6. So for nearly stable or fully stable atoms, we discussed before that these have an electron affinity nearly equal to 0. So this will be the lowest one. This will be lower than this one. So this will be second lowest, you can say, and this will be third lowest. And then it will go just the way it goes. That is, lithium will be less. No, firstly we'll take the least ones. Okay. So Ne least, then N, then Be. Now then we'll use this one, this general idea. It will be Li, B, C, O, F. Okay. So this is how you will determine the electron affinity across a period. This is pretty easy stuff to understand, right? Now we have got some examples as well down a group. I just noted down over here. So we'll take period 2 again. Lithium, beryllium, neon, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, chlorine, neon. Now here I will write the elements of group period 3 as well. So MgAl. Now here we have got a few exceptions. Here ideally the electron affinity should decrease, but it's not the same in the cases of Be and Al, N and P, OS and FCl. So here the electron affinity of Al is more than Be, of electron affinity of P is more than N, S is more than O, and Cl is more than F. And according to the factors and all, can we say that the element having the most electron affinity should lie in the rightmost block because it decreases down the group, and it increases across a period should lie in the uppermost and the rightmost part of the periodic table. So here we have observed that F is that element, but due to repulsion, Cl is more than F. So the element with highest EA is Cl and not F. Now just remember these exceptions: BE, BAL, NP, OS, and FCL. These are pretty easy to remember as well. Just you have to remember that SI will not be there and the first two won't be there. Now there are a few more exceptions as well. Now we are done with the exceptions over here. We have covered all the exceptions for electron affinity. So these are all the exceptions, and these are pretty easy to understand if you take it in a very simple way. Now we are going to discuss about electron negativity. Electron negativity, now we'll start. Now, electron negativity can be defined as the qualitative measure of the ability of an atom in a chemical compound to attract shared electrons towards itself. So, in simple language, it's the ability of an atom which is present in a compound to attract electrons towards it. So, it's like now there is a very important thing to discuss over here. Now when we compare electronegativities, it can be done in the following way. So if we have a covalent or ionic bond like A minus B, so if it is heated, so it is normally if it's broken down into A minus and B plus, so you can say electronegativity of A is more than B. However, if it gets broken down in the following form, that is A plus and B minus, then electronegativity of B is more than A. Now there is no unit of electronegativity because it's a relative value. It was before a scientist, I forgot the name, but I read it somewhere. He compared the values, he compared the electronegativity of hydrogen to every element, and he formed his own table which had the electronegativity of fluorine the highest and hydrogen had the lowest. No, cesium had the lowest in that. So now there are a few more scientists which also found some ways to calculate the electronegativity. Now one of them is Pauling. He's famous for Pauling scale. Pauling scale, I will write there. Pauling scale, he related the resonance energy, which is the electron negativity, the difference of electron negativity between two atoms, which we will take as A and B over here, and then he derived a formula from this. This is the electron negativity. X represents the electron negativity, which is equal to 0.208 difference in electronegativity, and this is in kilocalorie per mole. Now this can be also written as 0.102 A minus kilojoule. Now, in the exam, they will definitely give you the values of difference between electronegativities and all. So it will be pretty easy to solve this sum. Now, there is another scale known as Mulliken scale. Now, this can be really asked in exam. There was a scientist known as Mulliken. So he said that the electronegativity of an element is the average value of its ionization potential and electronegativity, such that both are expressed in electron volt. So, and he also found out that the Mulliken's value of electronegativity are about 2.8 times of Pauling scale. So they are generally found to be 2.8 times of that found using Pauling scale. And we derived this electronegativity of, let's say, A. So it will be a ratio of IPA in electron volts plus EA divided by 2, which is the average, okay? But there is one thing to understand over here, that they should be compulsorily in electron volt, otherwise you will get it wrong. I got it wrong in the exam, that's why I'm telling you guys. I took it in kg mole only. So 1 electron volt is roughly 96 kg mole. Okay, just remember this. I don't want you guys to make the same mistake. Now we'll discuss the difference between electronegativity and electron affinity. Firstly, electronegativity is the tendency of an atom to attract electrons to it, while as this is when it's present in a compound. Okay, so wait, it will be, here you will write tendency of an atom in a molecule. This is very important. A molecule to attract bonded electrons, and this is energy release by accepting and okay. Now this has no unit. It is now, and this is measured in EV or kilojoule per mole. It is the relative. Now you can say this is the relative value of an atom, and hence it has no value, no unit. Whereas this is the absolute value. Okay, this is pretty clear, I guess. Now we come to the factors affecting electronegativity. by the Mulliken's formula, can we say that higher the IP and EA of an atom, higher the electronegativity? So this is true. Now, of course, it will be inversely proportional to the atomic radius or ionic radius, because then the electrons are more. If it is comparatively large, the atomic radius is comparatively more. They are more loosely held, and hence less energy is required. So it is inversely proportional to atomic radius. And now we come to the charge of an atom. This is a bit surprising. Till now we have learned that in IP you can say, or in IP you can say, or in EN. So in atomic radius also we studied that. In the atomic radius we studied that it is generally in this pattern. Now here it gets reversed, because you can apply logic over here that it's inversely proportional to the atomic radius, so hence we can say that. So here we'll write it as A plus is more than A. Okay, pretty basic stuff, I guess. Now again, this is pretty easy to understand. Across a period it increases as atomic radius decreases, and here it decreases down a row as the atomic size also increases. Now there are some exceptions. Of course, there will be some exceptions. It's chemistry after all. So here the En of gallium is more than En of Al, even though gallium comes below Al. Now the electronegativity in the zero group or inert gas group, it's always zero. En equals to 0 in group 18. Now coming to the third one, the En of cesium and francium are equal. And in the group of 2b elements, that is the coinage elements, Zn, Cd, Hg, it increases because of lanthanide contraction. This is the reason. So if they ask you what's the reason for this, you write lanthanide contraction. Now we should have looked at the hydrides, hydroxides, the metallic oxides, and God knows what. So we all know that two atoms can form metallic oxide or non-metallic oxide. Okay, those are general. So if there is a compound like SiO2, so you can say it's a non-metallic oxide, whereas if it's MgO, you can say it's a metallic oxide. So here we'll learn about the acidic, basic, and the neutral oxide. So the acidic oxides, we just list them down, easy to remember. So they are CO2, NO2, SO2, and all those. Okay, so you don't need to learn all the acidic ones, but it will be great if you learn these neutral ones. These are CO, then there is NO, okay, same, CO and NO. it has got the same structure, you can say. Then there is H2O, that is water vapor, and N2O, again the same pattern. Now we come to the basic ones. The basic ones are generally the ones which are formed with metals, and these are CS2O, cesium oxide. Yeah. Then there is K2O, MgO. So these are all basic. So in the periodic table, the acidic nature increases. As you can observe over here, the non-metals are responsible for the acidity, and down a group, basic nature dominates. So the most basic oxide you can say is cesium oxide, and here you can say it's you can say, you can take any one. I think it should be ideally SO2, I guess, or CO2. Now the nature of oxides related to the how many oxygen atoms they are carrying. So as we go from this part of the period to the last part, it goes from basic nature, then amphoteric oxides. I have to teach you that out as well. Then there is acidic. So amphoteric oxides, I'll just name you a few. These are the ones which react with base acids as well as bases, giving salt and water. So these are Zap, zinc, aluminium, and this is Pb, which is lead. Okay. Now there is Ga, which is gallium and beryllium. And there are few that you will have to learn by your own, which are MnO2, manganese, MnO2, then there is SnO2, yeah, we are done. So these are the ones you have to remember, which are ZAP, GAID. These are two simple acronyms, and then there is MnO2 and SnO2. And if the number of oxygen atoms increase in a compound, its acidity also increases. Okay, and for like, I'll give you an example. MnO3 will be less acidic than Mn2O7. Okay, because per Mn atom here it is 3, whereas here it is per Mn atom it is 3.5 oxygen. So you can say the acidic nature will be more. Similarly, the basic nature will decrease as the number of oxides will increase in a compound. And the opposite happens in case of hydrides. So if the number of hydrides increase, the basic nature increases, and if they are comparatively less, then the acidic nature, if they are comparatively less, then acidic nature dominates. So this was all, guys, for today. I hope you liked the video. So this was all. I have completed the periodic table. This is ideal for all the JEE aspirants, as I told before. And if you liked it, please subscribe to the channel. I will be coming up with more content, and I hope I just need some